picture you see here was painted to recall the winter of 1777-78, at the lowest, most hopeless and discouraging time in our Revolutionary War. For the struggling Americans had been defeated by the mighty British Army in battle after battle and were fast losing all hope. The American camp was set up for the winter at a place in the wilderness called Valley Forge. It was a dreadful winter of cruel, bitter cold. Neglected by Congress, the soldiers were starving and freezing and dying, serving without pay, without enough food, without shoes or clothing, and it was said that you could track where a man had walked by the blood of his feet in the snow. Leading this wretched ragtag army was George Washington. With his rank as general, he could have slept in a warm house, but denying his own comfort, he chose to share the hardships of his men. To make this painting historically accurate, the artist, Arnold Friberg, visited Valley Forge in the dead of winter to feel the cold and to sketch and study the land itself. Then he made studies from the actual uniform that Washington wore, his sword, his saddle, his bridle, and his pistol holsters. But what was more important in this picture than just factual historical truth was to pay tribute to that tall and heavy-burdened man who alone held our struggling nation together, with his own countrymen indifferent to their condition. Where else could he turn but to God? This is a symbolic picture, but from Washington's own words, there can be no doubt of his deep and humble dependence upon whom he chose to call that all-wise and powerful being on whom alone our success depends. People wonder what inspired you to do a picture. What inspired me is the same that inspires many people about George Washington. Since I was a boy, I always idolized him. When we had a holiday on Washington's birthday, here was Washington alone. He stayed there and ate that rot-gut food. Some of his officers deserted and came back. No, he stayed. He was the man who held the whole revolution together. That's why they appointed him. Everybody said that when he walked into the room, you felt his presence, a very imposing presence. This is larger than my usual pictures. There is something about size that makes it impressive, and I wanted this picture, it's a sort of a monumental subject that I wanted to be impressive on people. Eugene Delacroix was one of the great artists of the 19th century, and he had a gift for writing about art, and he said, what moves men of genius or what inspires their work is not new ideas, but the obsession with the idea that what has been done before is not enough. There have been a number of paintings of Washington, the lone figure praying in the snow, done through the years by different artists. Washington was known, they have said that he was the finest horseman in Virginia. So it seemed most natural for me to do man and horse. And now that might not seem terribly original, but nobody else had done man and horse. But this almost sculptural group of man and horse together, that was what I felt it needed. So far as historical research for it, I went back to Valley Forge in the wintertime to get the cold and the snow. These are the trees that actually grow there. I was taking photographs and trying to sketch, and I went and searched every known portrait that I could, and it's surprising how they varied, but I tried to find out of all those pictures something that says the father of his country. I think the bust by the French sculptor Houdin, I believe, seems to be the most faithful, and I tipped the head of the statue down to get, you notice there's low sunset light in the picture, and therefore I tipped it to make a study of just how the light and shadow would hit this low sunset light. I had thought of it being a dark, overcast gray day because the light had almost gone out for the American Army. Then I thought way in the west at sunset, maybe a little opening in the sky, just enough for a light to shine through. So that's why I put in that little ray of light. It's very symbolic, that little thin ray of light shining through, see. So there's symbolism. You notice it's a sunset light. It's a low light coming in. It's not coming down on him. But it's because of this little bit of light. It may have shone through the darkness of the western sky.